Zombie won't go unless you tell him to go. Zombie won't think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Wake up. Halt! Order! Yeah. Good morning, beautiful people. Stacy Patrice here with Day Trey. We are into day 3 of the Countdown to Clarity series. And whew, I had to drink some of my wonderful tea this morning to wake up. Had a very beautiful night last night. Here in Chicago, went to go see Fela featuring Michelle Williams, and I had an amazing time. Beautiful people, beautiful surrounding circumstance, and it just really all resulted from this journey that I've been on to dip off into loneliness a little bit deeper than usual. And this journey for me has been amazing, not just because I had the opportunity to be with myself, but because stepping into loneliness, as I like to call it, is just one of those things where you realize that I really need to deal with my own little monster. All of us don't have monsters in the sense of, there are terrible things we're doing out in the world, but a lot of us have monsters, myself included, with things we do silently when no one's paying attention, the thoughts we tell ourselves, the practices we keep or don't keep, the little promises we break all the time about, what our quality of life should look like, the sacrifices we make. And for me, just stepping out into the world that I have created in my mind as of late is one of the most imaginable, one of the most beautifully imaginable things that I could encounter right now. And a lot of it stems from the desire to see the world different as I've been seeing it for years, to just do something different. I've had a beautiful life. I don't deny or regret much. People say live without regrets, but on the inside of yourself, when you haven't resolved something, it still feels like a regret. And so we do what we can to move past that and move into a place of just total forgiveness. And total is absolute. It does not exclude. It does not consider. It's just absolute. So that's a beautiful practice. I encourage everyone who is on this path to take your time to step into that. But I want to talk about a few things, and I don't want to keep you guys long today, but it's really important that we talk about the day 3 topic, which is loving loneliness and reducing your critical imprint. And the reason I had to talk about this today, and sometimes it really disturbs me that I even have to bring this to the forefront, but this particular topic is super important because I did go to see Fela yesterday. And, this is not going to be a Fela rant, but it is going to kind of pull everything together. This tea that I'm making, or this tea that I'm drinking, I had a couple of yogi tea bags in here. I'm drinking Egyptian licorice and ginger. And the first one says, your greatness, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if you can. Your greatness is not what you have, it's what you give. And then the second tea bag says, the heart sees deeper than the eye. And both of those are really super, super important today for me, just because of what it is that I had already scheduled to talk about. So first part, loving your loneliness. I love loneliness, like I said, not just because I get to see the world that I envision in my head actually play out when I'm surrendered to it and I'm in the flow. But I love that when I am experiencing loneliness, I'll own that. I tend to face my fears. And believe it or not, it's easier to face your fears silently than it is aloud. It takes more courage to face the fears that only you and yourself know are your fears. If you haven't shared your fears with anyone, or if you haven't been thrust into a situation where you have to confront your fears in front of people, then this is a beautiful thing to know what your fears are, to recognize and acknowledge them, and then also face them without an audience present. Protecting my instincts is also something that I find to be really helpful on this journey. And protecting my instincts just basically means that when I have intuition, when I have ideas, when I have a sense of clarity, I don't allow anyone to interrupt that, whether it's a phone call, a visit, an ill conversation that I'd rather not be having. I don't allow anyone to intercept that clarity. And that's one of the main things that I experience in this new stage of loneliness, is that your sense of communication and your sense of observation definitely both change. So I find myself talking less and watching more. And, I have a very, 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 very deep love with psychology. And a lot of times it's just important to just see, like the teabag said, what is really behind what the eye can see? What is really behind different behaviors, whether it's yourself or people around you? And, what is stopping you from making those new connections? What is preventing you from stepping forward into this life that you see for yourself, that you're waiting for someone else to make happen? So those are super, super important for me. And it creates a new sense of presence. And that sense of presence is just being ready, available, and awake, and noticing everything that's happening around you. I could write a movie, draw some pictures, write a song, do a blog about just what I experienced last night, and the dreams I had last night after I got home, and kind of what the weather felt like, what the city felt like. And that's pure presence. And I know there are some people that got up this morning and got on their day and got to work or wherever they were going, and they have no idea who they were sitting next to on the bus, what color the car was that was driving in front of them for 20 minutes, what the weather really felt like. Just a number of things that we typically are not present to when we're living in this zombie state, where we're just constantly taking in things, we're thinking what other people want us to think, we're doing what other people want us to do, and we're just in this zombie state of awareness. And it's really just being aware of what other people around you are doing and then turning into that person, as opposed to thinking for yourself. It doesn't mean you rebel against everything that other people are doing. Other things that people are doing may be valuable, and you don't have to rebel against it just because other people are doing it. I've had that disease for a while. It's like, oh, everybody's doing that, well, I'm not. Oh, everybody got an iPod, well, I don't need an iPod. It's silly after a while. It's like, are you helping yourself, or are you trying to just make a point? And what happens is you end up finding out later on why everyone was doing what they were doing. And once you find out, that's your power. It doesn't mean that you have to join in. It doesn't mean that what they were doing is the right way. It just means you're aware of it now. And being aware of it is power. So I have a quote that's on the end of my emails, and it's on my website, and I've been saying it forever because it truly brought freedom to me. And the quote says, be the you that you are when no one is looking, in front of everyone. And that quote is just super powerful for me because, like, again, there are things that you do at home, and there are things that and things that you feel, and ideas that you have, or maybe when no one is looking, you can dance your butt off. You're in the corner and you're dancing, and someone rings the doorbell, someone pops in the room, you're like, what are you doing? Nothing. That little person inside of you just kind of gets closed in. And so how can we start being the person that we are when no one is looking, in front of everyone, even when they are or are not looking? It's like there's no regard to whether people are looking or not. We just become who we are in life. We bring it into life. We stop being it in a certain context, and we bring it into life so that people can see. And it's a work in progress. It doesn't all happen overnight, but little pieces start happening. And that's what we're all charged with, is to connect to those little pieces. So this loneliness has shown me how many of those little pieces I have incorporated into my daily life. And just, being comfortable in my own skin, and the way that I feel, the way that I look, the talents I have, the conversations I have, the qualities that I have, and just feeling like there's really no place that I would not feel comfortable being me. There might be some situations where I would feel a particular energy, and I need to protect myself from that particular energy so that I don't absorb it and become that negative catalyst. But being me is being me, and people notice it. and resonate with it, and they say, oh, girl, you're brave. I could never do that. And I always say, yes, you could. You could do it right now. Come on, let's do it. You know, so being that encouraging voice is great, which brings me to Fela last night. So Fela with Michelle Williams, Airy Crown Theater, Chicago. And if it's coming to your city soon, please go check it out. It's a great production. I've always been a fan of Fela since I was introduced to Fela. I wasn't introduced to Fela until early 2003, possibly. And so it's only been, you know, that long that I've known about Fela's gifts, Fela's music, listened to Fela's story. So the Airy Crown production was not the first time I was introduced to Fela, but I know there were plenty of people in the audience that came to that production because of Michelle Williams, because they heard about, you know, Jay-Z and Jada and Will supporting it. They've heard the press on it, and they said, well, let me go check out this Fela dude, or, you know, as people say. And so I thought it was great to be in a packed out theater with people who were fans of Fela and people who also had never heard of Fela. It doesn't make one more important. The fact that we were all there together means that we were all interpreting and experiencing this story in different ways. And, you know, one of the things that I noticed, I used to play trombone. I love drums and bass. I have performed since I was 5. I have been a perpetual serial artist in a lot of different areas. And so when I go to see cultural events, when I see theater, when I see, you know, any type of live performance, I think people forget that sometimes the person who got called to do something in front of a crowd is not always even comfortable with everything that they have to do in front of the crowd, but you have to start. You can't sit at your house and say, well, until I am the best, you know, performer that there is, I'm not going to do a production. Trust me, been there, done that. Don't do that. It's not working out for your good. You have to get out there and you have to do it. You have to start from somewhere. There's nothing wrong with starting in your house. But at a certain point, you have to thrust yourself into your fear, and you have to say, how is it that I'm going to ever learn what it feels like to perform without having had performed? It doesn't make any sense. You can't imagine that being in your house with no one watching is extremely different than being on a world tour in front of sold out audiences night after night after night for a year. And when people sit in the audience and whisper, and they're going back and forth and whispering, and, oh, Michelle's so skinny, and she's stiff, and she can't sing, and her voice, oh my God, it gets on my nerves. That might all be true to that person, and that might be their perception. Is totally fine. I don't believe in censorship. If that's how you feel, that's fine. But I also think that there is a lack of respect that used to be in the arts when I grew up. And that lack of respect, to me, is what is wrong with people right now. It's why the person is sitting in the audience and being, you know, this critic, instead of them getting out and living their dreams. It's like, if you're living your dreams, what time do you have to criticize somebody else? What time do you have to talk about what somebody else should have done? If you want to be a cause for something changing for the better, then get on a committee, go help, you know, talk to the people in power, or approach people, have the courage to go get people to believe and push behind your idea if you don't like what someone else is doing, or don't support it. That's always my favorite thing. If you don't like it, don't support it. You don't have to talk about it. But what I can feel from any performance that I go to is that you don't know who has stage fright. You don't know what last night was like. It might have been a bad show. Someone might have fallen. It might have been, somebody could be sick. You have no freaking idea what goes into these productions. And you have the audacity to speak out in public. You know, like last night I went on the Fela with Michelle Williams page, and the first comment on that page after the show was, I enjoyed the show. Michelle was a little stiff though. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, if that's your opinion, I'm sorry, what production did you do that set you up to be in a position to publicly state in front of the cast and crew on their page that Michelle was a little stiff? That's an inside comment. See, that's why you need to spend time by yourself and sit in loneliness, because that little critical monster of yours that finds celebrities and performers as easy targets is really asking you to get up off your ass and go do something yourself that you can be proud of. It's not asking you to be the best critic. It's not asking you to voice your opinion about everything you don't like. It's really asking you to get some fire under your ass and go do it. And that's why you have so much to say. If you're a better dancer than Michelle, you go audition for Fela the next time they're looking for dancers. You go audition and you sing and you dance and you perform and you pull a crowd night after night at a Broadway production. I would love to see that, and I would go support that as well. But you have to be able to get into that space first where you can Tame your critical voice before you can be someone that can help whatever it is that you wanted to criticize. You can't go from being this angry person and saying, well, I didn't like that, and then expect it to change just because you didn't like it. Maybe you don't understand the value of performing. Maybe you don't understand what it takes to be a performer. Maybe you don't understand that performing is a work in progress. Performers who have been performing since the age of 5 are in Fela now, and this is their first major production. You have to understand that this doesn't come overnight for some people. It is not easy to get in front of critics, especially, people who think they're at the Apollo in Chicago. They have to criticize everything they see because it's not the way they like. We all love Fela. We thought Fela was amazing, before this production. And that's what made us go see the production, for those of us that were familiar. But I don't think that I could have enjoyed myself any more for what the production was. I was amazed that people weren't out of their seats. I wanted to stand up every song. And, I wanted to jump on stage really in my heels and my African dress and dance, because I really, really understood what it takes to perform that way and have that type of spiritual transformation on stage and try and bring that there every night. It's not like this person says, I'm doing a show one time, it's going to be perfect. Every night. City to city, different energy in the crowd, different setups on stage, different, situations the night before, the week of, or different weather, or maybe you miss your family, or, I was actually hanging out with my friend Charles, who is the husband of Lauren, who is in the play. And, I could only imagine. I was just like, wow, do you get a chance to stop and see the city when you're there? Do you get a chance to relax? And sure, of course she does. She did a beautiful job. And of course she does. But at the same time, you have to understand that this is what someone has dedicated their life to. They have conditioned themselves and primed themselves for this moment. And in that moment that they have primed themselves for, you go caca and tell everybody, what you didn't like about their performance. It's some ingrate type stuff. And, I just hope that we are all each powerful enough to be able to rise above that at some point and use that critique for taming our own inner monster. Because if you don't have beautiful thoughts, that's where that critique comes from. So enough about that. One thing I did want to mention that I feel in this loneliness and that I feel when I go see productions and amazing things like that is I feel that inner child, that part of me when I was a child that used to just be joyful just because. That part of me that felt free. I had no restrictions, no boundaries. I didn't think I needed any. I didn't even know what a boundary was. And I just was able to perform. I might have looked at other people and said, hey, in ballet, her extension looks better than mine. Or when I was doing tap, I want to go on my toes too. Or combination jazz, I had great jazz hands and, I could do, these wonderful, amazing steps. And I used to do footwork. I could house dance with the best of them. I was in a troupe, and there are a lot of different, I know you would die to see that, right? I know there are a lot of different things that I've done over the years, and some of them have been in front of crowds, televised crowds, audiences with parents, audiences with adults. I was on CAN TV, which is a cable access network, free television station doing house dancing, and, everybody at my high school was like, what? Because, that wasn't something they considered a cultured expression. They maybe were ashamed of the fact that the people that I would dance with, we all had stacks in our hair and, asymmetrics and, the perm with the stacks on the top and it's down in the back. And I wasn't ashamed of that because I would give it to anybody who walked up to me in a circle and decided that they wanted to challenge me. Anybody. I mean, I would go to some of the most hood skating rinks in the city and I would give it to them. And every time I did, and I was tall, and I knew how to get low. So it was like, you don't want to challenge with somebody who's been practicing this their whole life. That's not what you want to do. And on stage, you don't have the opportunity to get that challenge. In person, you're not going to talk about me too much because if I call you out the circle, you're going to realize really quickly, like, oh, no, never mind. And you're going to find respect for it. But on stage, you don't have that interaction. And you can say, oh, she's not, she's not doing, this or that. And it's like, okay. And I just observed that and I do mean all night last night. I was in the second row from the stage, enjoyed myself thoroughly, and ended up sitting with some friends later. And I just really, found a lot of my inner child just watching people and having compassion for what people's thoughts are and how they portray those. And furthermore, finding that our own demons are our worst enemies. It's like, you know, those thoughts we have about other people and what their contributions are the biggest roadblocks to our own personal progress. And just taming that critical voice, again, is uber important. And we have to really observe in context. We can't just look at people and say, oh, something's wrong with them. I know that the people that are the most critical are really probably people that were the most criticized. And I know that, you know, from my own experiences. And if we just all take a moment, just for the sake of exercise, and say, as a child, I remember being okay with myself up until blank. What can we fit in that blank? What was the moment that we realized that something was different about us as it related to the rest of the world? And some of us experienced that at a very young age, you know, and then it wasn't okay until we were an adult. And some people are still not okay. They're still dealing with the things that happened to them as a child. And we have to be compassionate about that, because we don't know what happened in people's lives. We don't know. We see them acting out, and our first reaction is to jump down their throat for acting out. And my first reaction is to look at the behavior and call attention to it, to extract from that person what causes them to act like that. The same way I do for myself when no one is looking. The same way I do for myself in the presence of other people. And I think it's okay to check people like that sometimes, as long as it's done with love. I think it's okay to check people and not carry on that negativity into another day, into a new experience. I just totally was in the flow yesterday. My video was late uploading because my computer was just acting out, but I had to go meet up with my friend. I had to go, you know, see Fela. I had to enjoy myself and just enjoy the cool breeze of meeting new people, having new connections, having a cup of coffee, talking face to face, getting off the phone, connecting stories with people who are telling their stories in their travels as they're moving around the world. And I'm so grateful for that. My friend Charles helped me to see Chicago in a new way. Charles was like, you know, Chicago is beautiful. It's a live city. And I'm like, really? And it's not that it's not live. It's that when you've lived here all of your life, I'm guessing for myself, you start to see it in a different way. And it takes courage to open up and see your city in a different way. You know, act like a tourist occasionally and go out and do something. You know, and this is how you reduce your critical imprint. You really just look for the value and the quality, not the problems and the negativities. Just keep looking for the value. Keep looking for the value. Keep pressing yourself to not be a zombie. Keep pushing forward and saying, I want to know something different other than this experience that everyone is telling me is happening. Keep looking in your history. Keep digging and looking for the context of why you do the things that you do. I always like looking at my family history, looking at things I did as a child when I was growing up, looking at different things I've done as an adult, looking at different friends that are around me, looking at different career paths that I'm interested in, looking at different art exhibits done with the entire African diaspora around the world, looking at different experiences from different cultures, picking up different cuisines, different languages. If you keep looking for the quality, how can you not find yourself? You are not an island. How can you not find yourself? And this is why loneliness is super important to me. You can't do this work listening to other people the rest of your life. It's almost impossible. You can observe and take experiences in, but at a certain point, you do have to come back to yourself and sit with yourself in order to process that. There was an after show, really quickly, there was an after show wrap up talk back with the cast of Fela last night. And in that show, we were just talking about, you know, Fela's, you know, legacy, what it took him to get his music over here to us in our hands so that we could listen to it. The things he sacrificed, you know, his own little neat world of how life was and how people tried to sabotage it, and what was his part in that, and how did he resolve that, and how did he resolve tragedy. And these are all beautiful things to watch someone else go through, to watch their rites of passage. However, one of the things that sat with me, and I shared it in the talk back, is that I think we all need the context to what it is that we do. And that's the most important thing, whether that's for the youth, for yourself, for your family. We all need the context. Maybe we all need to know different parts of heritage to discover our own. Maybe we all need to find out why do I dance like this? Why can I body roll and twerk and pop and, you know, do all this? And at the end of the day, when you see African dancers do the dances that, you know, are just simply natural to you, and you give, you know, especially young girls, the context, it stops being a bastardized art. It stops being this nasty language that video girls do for sex and money and stripping. It becomes, this is indigenous, and we have lost the connection, as everyone stated last night, to that indigenous art. And I just think this is the work that we're all here to do. You may believe it's making money. You may believe it's a number of things, and you're totally entitled to believe that. But I challenge each of you to move out of that zombie state and find out, why are you here having this human experience, and what is here for you? What is giving back to you? What is giving you energy and life so that you want to continue to be on this earth? And even if you're a person who loves to make money, what are you doing with that money to continue to give back on earth? And that's the spiritual experience. I hope I haven't talked too long. I hope this was right on time for somebody. And, just remember, Fela talks about someone, Mr. Follow, Zombie. I mean, there's so many songs that you can go into. Those are two of my favorite. And just, go online, Google the lyrics if you don't know them, and go see the play. Enjoy yourself. And just remember that at the end of the day, it's hard work, but it's not far-fetched to learn to see yourself first so that you can be the change in the world that you want to see. You can't be the solution without first seeing your own solution, your own self. So shout out to everybody who I connected with yesterday and today. And I hope that you do spend some time alone and deal with that hypocritical monster that wants to change others before changing yourself. I love you. Have a beautiful day. Peace. Namaste. Thank you for listening.